try to fuel the war in Syria. And you have also the US pledging money, you have Qatar pledging money. And if this was a grassroots movement, why would it need so many fighters and so many weapons and so much money from foreigners, not Syrian people? You know, I've seen revolutions happen without such things, grassroots, where millions of people have striked and said what they wanted. But that's not what's happening in Syria. And globally speaking, you know, Syria is not a country that is a New World Order country. We do not ascribe to them. And so they call us a rogue state. And they want to push us to be in line with everybody else. And this is what this is all about. You know, when they want their regional global war to happen, they want to be able to control both sides. And Al-Qaeda is about controlling the side of the Muslims. And if they can get all the Muslims to be under the banner of Al-Qaeda, just like they tried to get the Iraqi resistance in Iraq to be under the banner of Al-Qaeda, though they didn't succeed, then they can control both sides of the war. And they can keep it going on and on and on. So I think that's really what I wanted to say. You know, we're all fighting the same creature. And I hope that, you know, we will be victorious.
Well, Syrian Girl, you're right. How can people check out your Twitter, Facebook, YouTube channels? Give out that contact info for people that want to learn more about your reporting.
My YouTube is Syrian Girl Partisan, and Partisan is with an S, and there's no spaces. And Partisan Girl is my Twitter, and Partisan Girl is my Facebook as well. So if you find any one of them, you'll find the other ones.
Well, charging up Al-Qaeda and giving them all this power is incredibly dangerous. And our media thinks we're so stupid. In a year, they'll be saying we've got to go into Syria because Al-Qaeda runs it. And Al-Qaeda blew up this, blew up that. So we've got to surveil the American people. It's incredibly transparent. And if our criminal government would run Al-Qaeda, they would run the mass shootings. And they have. If they would run Fast and Furious, they could do anything. And they have. And this is not our government. This is the globalists doing this. They hate the Syrians. They hate the American people. They hate all national sovereignty. And Assad has been a lot better than his father, probably one of the best stabilizing forces there. Gaddafi been working with the West. They set him up to put Al-Qaeda in and just to engage incredible crimes. And your family are political, I guess, refugees of Syria. You're not Assad fans. It's so bad, you've got to fight Al-Qaeda. You've got to be against the West. Bringing in jihadis that were on the BBC in Libya with signs saying, "Here we come, Syria." 6-8 months ago. I mean, incredible. Syrian Girl, thank you so much for your courage. We'll talk to you again soon on the Nightly News. We'll be back with a guest in studio. I'm Alex Jones. Eller, thank you. Hi, folks. Well, ladies and gentlemen, for the next hour and 20 minutes or so, we're going to be joined by the author of Clouded Titles, one of the biggest stories out there. Dave Krieger is going to be here with us in just a moment. In fact, he is here with us right now. If you just joined us, it is Friday, the 10th day of August, 2012. I am your host, Alex Jones. I'm here Monday through Friday, 12 noon to 3 Eastern, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central, and so on. That'd be 10 to 1 Mountain, 9 to noon Pacific. And then I come back Sundays, 4 to 6 Central, live, 4 to 6 Central with the Sunday transmission. Because so much news and information breaks over the weekend that we need to be on the air on Sundays. So again, thank you so much for joining us. Hard to believe I've been doing the Sunday show now for about 6 years. Time just flies. Seems like yesterday I started out on Access TV 17 years ago. And almost immediately got a local radio show and then got syndicated a few years ago, I guess in 1998. Just amazing. 14 years. And here the show is just growing and growing because people would hear this show and think it was really radical in the past. And now they've seen so much of it come true. I was like, oh, Alex Jones says they've got plans to use troops on the American people. Now they're rolling it out on the streets of America. U.S. Army tactical manuals describe how to control domestic insurrection. Yeah, the Tea Party is who they say. And they believe Al-Qaeda will link up in the Army training manuals and the War College documents. This is public. They publicly publish this. The Tea Party is going to link up, wait for it, with Al-Qaeda. I mean, the Tea Party on average is the most Islamophobic group you could imagine. It's amazing how dumb they think we are. Meanwhile, the Pentagon, the globalists run al-Qaeda and admit it in the news. And the CFR said, quote, "We need al-Qaeda." Oh, well, I will not pledge allegiance to al-Qaeda. So call me anti-American if you want, because in the new America, we have reached 1984. Al-Qaeda is evil and hiding under every table, so TSA has to molest your children and fondle your wife and you. But at the same time, Al-Qaeda are heroes in Libya and Syria, but they're bad and going to link up with the Tea Party. Anyone that believes that, if you're a new listener, by the way, that came out was all over mainstream news just this week. We reported on it, others did. The report of Army training to take on Tea Party insurrection. Just type that in, you'll get mainstream news on it, not just us. They actually in the mainstream news were like, maybe we should get ready for them. And they say we could link up with al-Qaeda. So, sure. Well, I'm not linking up with al-Qaeda. I mean, I'm not NATO or the Pentagon. I didn't create al-Qaeda like the Pentagon did. I didn't use them against the Russians or against the Serbs or against everybody else. I didn't use them against the United States so they could take our liberties here domestically. I've interviewed the head of the U.S. Embassy who was ordered to give them waivers to get them into the United States and was told they're CIA agents. And then the head of the Defense Language School, Colonel Butler, went out and said, Muhammad Atta trained at our base. Something's going on. The government's involved. They began a court-martial on him until he shut up, and then he's like on the witness protection program or something. They don't want you to. And then another guy who saw them putting bombs in the buildings. Well, they told him bombs in the buildings. He died a few weeks after coming on the show. That was Barry Jennings, the deputy head of New York Emergency Management in Building 7. You know, I just think we got some pretty bad people running things. You know, the type that ship 20,000 guns and hand grenades into Mexico to blame the Second Amendment. So that's some of the news up there. And a carbon agenda set stage for rolling blackouts in California, back to the old Enron scams, cut off the power so they can charge you more. They found that creates the perception of scarcity. That came out in the Enron documents, and 12 years later, they're back. They're back. Surveillance cameras turned off during Sikh temple shooting. But the Attorney General is there right now at services, feeding off of it. A guy who said, as Deputy Attorney General, he wants to ban the Second Amendment. Massive IRS fraud scheme allows illegals to grab billions. I told you about this last week before it broke. I never got our story out. But it's a lot bigger than just giving them fake IDs. They're then allowed to take other people's Social Security numbers, merge the two, even though they don't match. And the system is then prosecuting or going after or shutting down the bank accounts of the citizen who they enable the illegal to take your identity. I mean, man, you never can underestimate the banker occupiers and how they want to destroy this country. $22 billion to ship General Motors to China. Buy those Cadillacs made in China. So a cop strip search mom forcibly. Now, this is out of the Broward Palm Beach New Times, but I can't even really say this on air. It was that the woman was that time of the month, and they pulled the feminine product out of her body, and I'm very proud of their activities. And so the TSA is leading the way now, because they now do that. They take women in private areas and make them remove things, colostomy bags. Old ladies are forced to stand, and then they make other slaves pick them up if they can't stand. It's all part of our humiliation. 11 things that can happen when you allow your country to become enslaved to bankers. That's all up at Prisonplanet.com and Infowars.com. And then, in the last 20 minutes of the show today, after our guest leaves us, I promised to have him back to take calls, we are going to premiere, because I got like 20 minutes of footage of this. They're back there grabbing it off my cell phone. It takes a while to encode it for whatever reason. They're cutting it down to like 7-8 minutes. We're going to play a drone. I got droned today driving in from up 290 into Austin. And then there was a big traffic backup because of a wreck and the truck police checkpoint, so I barely made it here. I may have to just move back into town, because the new checkpoints and it's such a free country. I tell you, it's so free. I mean, I got up close, folks. I'm driving. I go, that's a drone right over the road. So that is coming up. We're going to break that down. But for the next hour and 20 minutes, as I said, we are joined by a guy we've had on the radio a few weeks ago on the nightly news, and backed by popular demand. Dave Krieger is a former major market radio news reporter. Yeah, right here at News Radio 590 AM, where we're on. News director, television news reporter, anchorman, and investigative journalist who has won national and state news awards from Associated Press broadcasters. Dave was a former member of Radio Television News Directors Association. He began studying law in the early 1990s. He just found out about all this fraud with the titles and everything, and so got into that. He's been working with some big law firms that have been in national news. That's how I found out about him, beating the big banks. And so he now has been putting on these big paralegal events where lawyers come to learn from him. And his newest incarnation of his book, Clouded Titles, is 396 pages, the latest with court cases that are winning, strategies that will win, not get you put in prison. So very, very exciting. Lawyers are buying these by the case, and so are the lawyers are handing them out to their clients. And it's for sale at Infowarshop.com or 888-253-3139. And we have it discounted, I think, about $10 off the regular price at Infowarshop.com is the lowest price anywhere. We're evil capitalists here. So be sure and check it out at Infowarshop.com. I just want to say, though, Dave, you didn't build this. You didn't write this book. You didn't go to all the seminars. You didn't go interview all the lawyers. You haven't worked for many years at law firm up in Dallas fighting this. You have done nothing. Would you like to thank Obama for writing your book?
Of course I would.
Good. Would you like to, in fact, would you like to thank government for giving birth to you?
Actually, the government, yeah, you got to love that. The government actually helped me out a lot. As a matter of fact, if it wasn't for the government and all the shenanigans that have been going on with the big banks and these issues that we're finding out now with Eric Holder and Lanny Brewer and the Justice Department ties, we now have a new white paper.
That's right. They did this too, so they did build it, actually.
We have a new white paper that's out now by the Government Accountability Institute that actually has gone into detail and is working a working model, 27 pages long, that goes into detail about the MERS, Eric Holder, Lanny Brewer, DOJ, SEC connection.
Okay, well, let's explain most of the listeners understand this, but we got millions of listeners, so there's probably 300,000, 400,000 people listening for the first time right now. So give it in just a few minutes because skip the break because I'm late. I need to stop doing this. I'm out of control. You know, we can't skip the break. Give us just a breakdown of what is happening, the history of this, and then give us the latest on the loving DOJ.
Oh, well, the basis for writing the book was the fact that I started to see a pattern in 2006. I got out of my last mortgage in October rather of 2006, right before it was going to reset itself. It was one of those adjustable rate mortgages. Basically, what was happening is in 2003, when this whole nonsense started, the promotion had been that everybody needed to, and, you know, this is part of the brain game where they put this idea in your head that you need to own a house. And it doesn't matter, you know, whether you have a job or not. That's why they have ninja loans, which is no job, no income, no assets. And they now have that for cars and everywhere else. Exactly. And you just tell us how much money you want to make, and we'll put it down, and we'll get you a loan for that. And they've got these programs out there that are all tied to the securitization market, and they use a vehicle called mortgage electronic registration.
And then they tie these packages of total crud and get government to invest your pension and everything else in and then hold you hostage.
Exactly. And then you find out your 401k's been depleted and they're paying you back at 10 cents on the dollar after you sue them. So in essence, that's how this...
But they don't care because they got the fees swapping all the derivatives crud.
$50 trillion.
Plus the SWAT team standing by if you don't like it.
Yeah, it's $50 trillion they made off derivatives.
By the way, you don't add in here, you're a Vietnam veteran, combat veteran. Well, what is it like for you to see the country become this corrupt?
Well, you know, from a Vietnam vet's point of view, it's sad that we have to see all of this stuff that we're over there. I mean, first off, most of the vets in Vietnam didn't even know why they were there. And most of the stuff I was involved with Army Security Agency, so I don't talk about that. So it's just one of these things where, you know, as far as combat goes, you know, we didn't see a lot of that. We were more behind the scenes. You were more advisory capacity.
More of an Air America capacity?
You got to love that.
Love it.
You don't run away with that one.
Loving government, huh?
Got to love it. Yeah, Air America, Black Ops, all the other good stuff. You know, we know that there was a certain amount of that going on, but, you know,
it's a very loving government.
Here to there, you know.
It's a very loving government.
Yeah. The bigger problem we have now is trying to...
I had some family in Army security. You know what they did?
What's
in the U.S.?
High mirrors.
Well, I've said it on air before. I'm not going to get into it. Anyways, all right, we'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Stay with us. We're going to break down the loving foreign banks taking over the country through derivatives fraud and how to stop them. Dave Krieger is in studio with us, and then after he leaves us in about an hour from now,